It's like the classic locked room mystery with a twist. Instead of a crime with no way out, we're looking at making sure there's no way in. Deep within the corporate world of non-disclosure agreements and hush-hush secret projects, there's the clause known as the locked room. Typically, such a private space is designed into a working office, but in our work-at-home pandemic world of COVID-19, some office exiles need to implement a locked room protocol at home. That's what we're going to do today. So this is the doorknob that came with this room in this house. We're going to replace it and turn this room into a locked room. So those of you who haven't spent a lot of time in and around the corporate or federal world may not be familiar with the whole locked room clause. But the basic idea is that often confidential materials, information, documents, hardware need to be brought in and kept secure. In many companies, there are rooms or a room that is designated as a locked room, and they can often be inspected by the party who is the other half of that non-disclosure agreement or confidentiality clause. We're now working from home a lot more, and so we need to implement that kind of function here at home. For some of us, that's not as big a problem because we're not dealing with kids, teenagers, guests, and that sort of stuff. But for some families, the room with all the goodies is irresistible to the teenagers. And the room has to be locked, both because of the job and the contractual requirements, and also because there might be things in there that are dangerous or delicate that you would normally have at work and are now having at home. So what we're going to do in this project is two things. We're going to replace the doorknob with a Yale Smart Lock. And then I'll show you this in a minute, but over here we have a safe that we can put some of the most valuable items in. So that's what we're going to do in this project. The first step is going to be taking out the existing doorknob and replacing it with the Yale Smart Lock. Okay, so the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to take this lock off of the door. And I want to point out that this does not have a deadbolt. This is an interior door only, and interior doors tend not to have deadbolts. However, many smart locks do. So what you want to do is, if you're putting this inside, is you want to look for a smart lock that has an interior lock without a deadbolt. And the Yale lock that I'm going to point you to is one such smart lock that will do that. Installing this is not terribly difficult. We need to remove the old lock first, and that can be easy or difficult pretty much depending on your home. In this case, it was just taking a couple of screws out for the latch and then removing the doorknobs themselves, and that was about it. Once I had the lock out, I put in the new bolt, and it turns out I had it backwards, so it's always a good idea to read the directions as you're doing this sort of install. The old don't read the directions thing can kind of get you in trouble if you don't pay enough attention. Once I installed the latch, it's kind of important to test, and I tested from outside the room because there's no exit in the room, so if I couldn't get the latch open, I wanted to make sure I was outside. But I did make it work, and the test passed. So the next thing is to install the electronics, and there's three basic parts. This is the keypad, and it goes outside. This is a non-electronic part that basically provides the physical connection and holds the outside lock in, and then you just run the cable that passed through the hole in the door to the other side, which is where the battery and programming and your ability to set your lock code is. I put on the handles. I was very gratified to find out that they actually, in fact, worked. And I tested both of those. And so the first thing I did was I did a mechanical test here, again, making sure I was outside and making sure I could get back in, and that worked. So that was quite nice as well. So now it's just time to put the batteries in, and you get a great little welcome when you get the fourth battery in, which is kind of cute.
Welcome to Yale Real Living.
And at this point, your lock is a smart lock, but it's not connected to your phone. What you need to do is add this little module, which will install into the lock. That module configured to Wi-Fi, and now the lock is a working lock with Wi-Fi. So I can lock it by hand, but as you can see, I can also use my smartphone to unlock the lock and get back inside. Pretty cool. Okay, so now that we have the door lock working, let's take a look at the second part of our system here, which is the safe. Now, most of the room falls under the locked room clause, and most items will just be locked in the room, but some things, either of high value or high confidentiality, will need to be locked in the safe. Now, this is an electronic safe, so I can open it up, and as you can see, we have Yoda inside. But more to the point, the key features, which you really probably can't see here, there's screw holes in the back and screw holes in the bottom. So this thing can be mounted to someplace, and then once it's locked, hopefully with the secured item inside, once it's locked, they can't get to it. So we have two layers of security. This is for like hard drives, thumb drives, SSDs, documents, any of those sorts of things that, or small components that you need to secure inside the locked room. And this sort of two-layer multi-factor locking is key to making sure that you have the necessary security that might meet the standards you'd be expected to have at the office here at home. So there you go. We've installed a smart lock on the door so I can come and go and get into the room when I need to, but others can't, keeping secure items, confidential items, potentially dangerous items away from the rest of the family, while at the same time abiding by the locked room clause in the various agreements that I have. So I want to thank you, because while we're doing this, since I'm working from home, which means that this printer is cranking away and will be for the next 6 hours or so. And there's a little noise in the background. This room is also not the most conducive to perfect audio. But that's what we're dealing with when we're working at home. We're at home, we're reinventing our entire work environment to be able to do all that we used to do, or at least most of what we used to do in the office, now at home, keeping everybody safe, and hopefully keeping productive and keeping on track with all of our projects and our responsibilities. So for ZDNet's DIY IT, my name is David Gewirtz. Go out there and build something cool, and then lock your doors. Now you know how.